I never thought someone could watch me so closely without me noticing. Not until it happened to me. It started a few months ago when I moved into a small apartment in a busy part of town. The building was old but cheap, and I liked it because it was close to work and the grocery store. I was happy with my little place. I worked a regular 9-to-5 job at an office down the street, and my life was simple. Wake up, go to work, come home, sleep, repeat. At first, nothing seemed strange. But then little things started happening that made me uneasy. I would leave my apartment in the morning and notice a man standing by the corner of the building. I thought maybe he was just waiting for a friend or a ride. He looked normal, mid-40s, average height, dark hair, wearing a black jacket. He never said anything or looked directly at me, just standing there. The first few times I ignored it. But then one day, I realized he was there every morning when I left for work, and every evening when I came back. One morning, as I was walking out, he stepped forward and said, "Good morning." His voice was calm, soft. I stopped, surprised. "Hi," I said quickly, trying to keep it polite but distant. He smiled but didn't say anything else. I hurried away. That day, I felt watched all day. At work, I kept looking out the window, hoping not to see him standing across the street. I did. I saw him standing near the coffee shop, looking toward my office building. That's when I got scared. I told my coworkers, but they said, "Maybe he's just a regular guy. Don't worry too much." But I did worry. The next few days I tried to change my schedule. Leave earlier, come home later. But no matter when I walked out, he was there, always watching. One evening, I was on my way home, carrying groceries. The street was dark, and mostly empty. As I turned the corner to my building, he was standing there again, closer than usual. This time, he spoke. "You live here, right?" I nodded. "I see you every day. I know your schedule." I felt my heart pound. "Why are you watching?" "Me?" I asked, my voice shaking. He shrugged. "Just curious. You look lonely." That made me shiver. I walked into the building quickly and locked the door behind me. I called the police and told them everything. They came and checked the area but found nothing suspicious. No one nearby. No sign that anyone had followed me. They said, "If he bothers you again, call us immediately." But I didn't want to wait. I bought a small camera to put outside my door and a personal alarm to carry with me. For a while, it seemed to help. The man stopped showing up for a few days. But then things got worse. One night I was home alone. I heard a soft tapping on my window. I froze. The window was on the second floor, and the street outside was quiet. I pulled back the curtain slowly and looked out. No one was there. I waited a minute, then pulled the curtain back again. This time, I saw a small note stuck to the window. It read, "You can't hide." I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I took the note to the police, but they said it was hard to find who left it without security cameras around the building. I felt trapped. I started staying late at work, hoping to avoid the man. But one evening, when I finally left at 9 p.m., I saw him sitting on the bench near the bus stop across the street. He was staring at me, holding a small notebook. He looked up and smiled when I caught his eyes. I crossed the street quickly. That night, I found something even more disturbing. When I got home, my front door was unlocked. I'm sure I locked it. Pushed it open slowly, heart racing. Inside, the place looked normal. Nothing moved, nothing stolen. But on my kitchen table was the notebook. I picked it up carefully. Inside, it was filled with pages of my daily routine. Every day I left for work, what I bought at the store, when I cooked dinner, even the books I read. It was like he had been watching me for weeks, writing down everything. I called the police again, but they said, "Without proof, it's hard to do anything." I asked them to check the building's security cameras, but the landlord said they weren't working. I felt hopeless. From then on, I was afraid to leave my apartment. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow looked like him. One night, I heard footsteps. Outside my door, I held my breath. The footsteps stopped. Then I heard a whisper. "Why won't you talk to me?" I wanted to scream, but I stayed silent. The next morning, I found my door scratched. Long, deep scratches, like someone tried to open it with their nails. I moved out the next day. I stayed with my sister until I found a new place. I told her everything. She said I should get a restraining order, but I'm scared. Scared he will find me again. And I'm scared he's closer than I think. Because the last thing I saw before I left the apartment was a piece of paper slipped under the door. It said, "I know where you sleep." I still don't know who he really is, or what he wants, but I can't stop looking over my shoulder. It was a cold, rainy night in late November. I was driving home from a friend's house about 2 hours away. The roads were empty, except for a few trucks hauling through the storm. I was tired and just wanted to get home. My car's gas light had come on, so I decided to stop at the nearest gas station. It was one of those old places. One pump outside, a tiny convenience store with flickering fluorescent lights. The whole place looked a little run down, but safe enough. I pulled in, parked near the pump, and got out with my umbrella. As I started filling the tank, I noticed a man standing at the edge of the parking lot, near the entrance to the small store. He looked like he was in his late 30s, wearing a dark coat and a baseball cap pulled low. His face was shadowed, but I thought I saw him watching me. I tried not to look at him too much. Inside the store, the lights were too bright, and the cold air hit me harder. I grabbed a bottle of water and a snack and headed to the counter. The man came in behind me. He stood near the candy rack but kept glancing at me. I paid quickly and walked outside. When I got back to my car, the man was standing close to the driver's side, just watching. I froze. "Can I help you?" I asked, trying to sound calm. He smiled slightly. "No, just waiting." I locked my doors and sat inside for a moment, trying to calm my racing heart. He walked back toward the store, then disappeared inside. I thought maybe it was just a coincidence, but when I started the car and pulled away, I saw his car parked behind mine at the gas pump. I drove faster, keeping my eyes on the rearview mirror. His car followed. I didn't know what to do. I thought about pulling into a police station or a well-lit area, but it was late, and I wasn't sure where one was. I kept driving, heart pounding. After a few miles, I turned onto a side road hoping to lose him, but the car followed. I tried calling a friend, but no answer. I called 911, whispering my location. The dispatcher told me to keep driving and find a public place. I saw a small diner up ahead, open late. I pulled in and parked right in front, keeping my doors locked. The man's car pulled in behind mine and stopped. I sat, frozen, watching him through the window. He got out slowly and walked toward the diner's entrance. I wanted to get out and ask for help, but my legs wouldn't move. Inside the diner, there were a few people sitting at the counter, talking quietly. The man walked right up to the waitress and whispered something. She shook her head, then smiled nervously and walked away. I watched him carefully as he sat at a table near the back. He kept glancing toward me. After about 10 minutes, I finally gathered enough courage to get out. I walked inside, my hands shaking. The waitress came over. "Is everything okay?" she asked. "No," I said. "That man is following me. I don't know what he wants, She looked at me seriously. "You're not the first to say that. He's been hanging around here for a while." I felt a chill. "Have you called the police?" "Yeah, but he's careful. No one can catch him." I looked at the man sitting quietly in the corner. His eyes met mine. I felt a cold wave run down my spine. I told the waitress I needed to use the phone. I called 911 again, giving them my location. The operator said a patrol car was nearby and would arrive soon. I waited near the door, watching the man. He suddenly stood up and walked out. I followed him with my eyes, heart pounding. Outside, he got into his car and started it. Before he left, he rolled down his window and called out, "See you soon." I don't know why, but those words made me feel even more scared. The police arrived minutes later. I told them everything. They drove around the area but didn't find the man's car. The officer told me to stay at a friend's house for a few days. I didn't argue. For a week I stayed with my best friend. But I couldn't stop thinking about that man. Every noise in the night made me jump. One night, my phone rang. The caller ID was blocked. I answered quietly. "Why did you run?" The man's voice whispered. I hung up immediately. I told my friend, but she didn't know what to say. I started changing my daily routes, my routines, even where I shopped. Still, I felt like he was always there, just out of sight. Then one evening, I got home to find my apartment door slightly open. I'm sure I had locked it. Inside, everything seemed normal, but on the floor was a single playing card, the King of Hearts. I picked it up with trembling hands. There was a note under it, written in messy handwriting. "I'm closer than you think." I haven't told the police about the note yet. I don't know if I want them involved anymore. I'm afraid he's watching me even now, typing this. I don't know who he is or what he wants, but I do know one thing. This nightmare isn't over. It started with something so small that I almost didn't notice it. Last October, I was at the local grocery store picking up a few things after work. It was a quiet Wednesday night, around 8 p.m. The store was nearly empty. I like it that way. No crowds, no small talk. Just in and out. I was walking down the frozen foods aisle when I saw a man at the end of it. Late 30s maybe. Average build, gray hoodie, jeans. He was just standing there, staring into a freezer like he forgot what he came for. I passed him without a second thought. But then I saw him again, 2 aisles over. No cart, no basket. Just his hands in his hoodie pockets and those eyes. Looking at me. I told myself I was being paranoid. It's a public store. People walk around. Still, something about him gave me the creeps. So I checked out quickly and left. It was only after I was halfway home that I realized he walked out just seconds after me. I didn't see a car follow me, but when I pulled into my driveway, I waited in the car for a few seconds, just to be safe. Nothing. I went inside, locked the door, and didn't think much more of it, until the next day. When I left for work the next morning, I noticed something strange. My mailbox was open, and the inside was completely empty. Not unusual, maybe, except I remembered clearly getting my mail the night before. I shrugged it off, assuming I forgot to close it properly. That night, I was making dinner when I heard the motion light go on in the backyard. I froze. I live alone. My house backs up to a wooded area. That light only goes on if something moves, past the back porch. I turned off the stove and quietly walked to the sliding glass door. Through the curtain, I could see the light shining onto the empty backyard. No movement. No animals. Just stillness. It stayed on for nearly a minute, then shut off. I didn't sleep well that night. The next morning, I found footprints in the dirt right outside the back steps. Not shoe prints, bare feet. Like someone had walked up to the house barefoot and stood there. That's when I called the police. An officer came by, took a look around and said it was probably a kid messing around. He suggested installing a camera. That weekend, I bought 2 and set them up, one in the front and one in the back. For a few days, everything was quiet. Then on Sunday night, I got a notification from the backyard cam. Motion detected at 3:17 a.m. I didn't check it until the morning, and when I did, I felt my stomach twist. The footage showed a man stepping into view from the trees. The same man from the grocery store. He walked up to the porch, barefoot again, and just stood there, looking at the back of my house for nearly 10 minutes. Then, without a word or movement, he walked back into the woods. I gave the footage to the police. They said they'd keep an eye out. That night I stayed at a friend's house, but it didn't matter. The next morning, my friend's neighbor, a guy she barely knew, knocked on the door. He said there was a man sitting in a car parked across the street since 4 a.m. When I looked, I couldn't see a face, just the outline of someone in the driver's seat of a beat-up sedan. We called the cops again, but when they showed up 20 minutes later, the car was gone. I went home that afternoon to grab some clothes. My front door was still locked, but something was off. There was a smell, faint but sharp, like old sweat and mildew. I checked every room, every closet, even the attic, nothing. Still, I left and didn't go back for a week. When I did, I brought 2 friends. We walked through the house together. Everything looked normal, no signs of forced entry, no missing items. But when we opened the closet in my bedroom, we found something wedged behind the coats. It was a half-eaten apple, still fresh. I felt sick. The police took it for evidence, but they couldn't explain how anyone got in. Nothing was broken. All windows locked. For weeks after that, I stayed with friends, switched up my routines, even changed jobs to work remotely. And still, he found a way. One night, I received a single text from an unknown number. No words, just a photo. It was my bedroom, taken from inside the closet. I moved the next day, didn't tell anyone where, changed my number, my name online, everything. It's been 3 months, and last night, I found a gray hoodie in my new building's laundry room, sitting on top of the machine I always use, still warm. I didn't sleep. I don't think I will tonight either. I never noticed the man in the apartment next to mine until I heard a noise one night. I live in a small apartment building. It's nothing fancy, just 3 floors, about 12 apartments. I've lived there for a year, and I like it because it's quiet and close to my work. One evening, I was getting ready for bed. It was late, around 11:30 p.m. Suddenly, I heard a soft tapping on the wall that separates my apartment from the next one. At first, I thought it was the building settling or some small noise from upstairs. But then, the tapping came again. I pressed my ear against the wall and heard faint footsteps, almost like someone was pacing back and forth. That made me feel uneasy. I tried to ignore it and went to bed. The next day, I told a friend about the noise. She suggested maybe my neighbor was moving furniture or just restless. I didn't think much of it. But that night, the tapping came again. And this time, it was followed by a soft knocking on my door. I froze. No one was supposed to be there. I peeked through the peephole. No one. Just the dark hallway. I opened the door a little and looked out. Empty. I closed it quickly and locked it. For the next few days, things got worse. I started hearing footsteps in the hallway outside my door, even when no one should be home. Sometimes I'd hear whispering, soft words I couldn't understand. One night, I heard my name whispered. Anna. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. I called the landlord and asked if anyone new had moved into the next apartment. He said yes. A man had just moved in a week ago. I asked if he had a criminal record or anything strange. The landlord said no, he was just quiet. But I wasn't convinced. One morning I found something taped to my door, a small photo of me taken through my window. I recognized the picture. It was from a few days ago when I left my apartment in the morning. I felt sick. I called the police. They came and took the photo as evidence but said without proof of stalking, there wasn't much they could do. They suggested I install cameras, or get a security system. I did. I put a small camera near my door, and another facing my bedroom window. I also changed my locks. For a while, things seemed calm, but the tapping never really stopped. One night I was looking at the live feed from my phone while lying in bed. I saw a shadow moving across the hallway outside my door. Suddenly I noticed the camera facing my window picked up a figure standing there. I couldn't see his face, just a dark shape. My phone buzzed with a message. It was from an unknown number. I'm always watching. I stared at the screen, frozen. I wanted to scream but didn't. The next day, I told my friend what happened. She came over and suggested I stay with her for a few days. I agreed. When I returned, I decided to confront my neighbor. I knocked on his door. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. I started to feel scared. I went back to my apartment and checked the cameras. The footage showed him standing outside my door several times during the day, watching. I didn't sleep. Well, for weeks. Then, one night, I heard a loud bang on my door. I jumped out of bed and looked through the peephole. The man was there, staring up at the camera. His eyes looked cold. He knocked again and said softly, "Why won't you talk to me?" I didn't answer. He stayed for a few minutes, then walked away. I called the police. They said they would patrol the area more often, but the feeling of being watched never left. Weeks later, I found another photo taped to my door. This one was different. It was a close-up of my face. The eyes looked tired and scared. There was a note on the back. It said, "Soon, we will be closer." I moved out the next day. I still don't know what he wanted or why he chose me. But sometimes, when I'm alone in my new place, I feel like someone is watching, and I wonder, did he ever stop? It all started with a text message. I remember exactly when it came. About 2 months ago. I was sitting on my couch, watching TV, when my phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, I saw you today." I didn't reply. I thought, it might be a wrong number or maybe a joke. Then, another message came 5 minutes later. "You looked really nice. Where are you going tonight?" I still didn't reply, but the messages kept coming, every day, sometimes twice a day. Late at night, early in the morning, short, simple texts, never asking for too much, but always watching. "I know where you live." That one made me freeze. I showed the messages to my boyfriend, Mark. He said, "Maybe just block the number. It's probably some creep." So, I blocked it. But the messages came from a new number the next day. This went on for weeks. Sometimes I would get texts with little details about my day. Things only someone close would know. One night, I got a message with a photo attached. It was a picture of me walking home from work. No one else was around. My heart jumped. I never told anyone at work where I lived. Mark called the police, and I showed them all the messages and photos. They said they would try to trace the numbers, but they often came from prepaid phones or apps that hid their location. Tried to ignore it, but I started changing my routine. I took different routes home. I stopped going out alone. I even stopped checking my phone when it buzzed. Still, the messages came. One morning I woke up to find a small package on my doorstep. Inside was a plain black notebook. I opened it. Inside were pages filled with my daily activities. What I ate, where I went, who I talked to. Some pages had drawings of my apartment building and little notes like, door unlocked at 8:15 p.m. and lights, off in bedroom at 11:03 p.m. I felt sick. I showed it to Mark. He was furious. "We have to do something," he said. We stayed at his place that night. The next day, I contacted a private investigator. He told me to be careful and offered to set up security cameras around my home. That night, I installed the cameras outside my apartment. For the first few days, nothing unusual happened. But one night, while I was watching the footage, I saw a shadow moving near my front door. The figure was hunched over, wearing a dark hoodie. My hands trembled as I zoomed in. I could see the person placing something by the door. The next morning, I found a small bag tied with a red ribbon. Inside was a single key and a note. "For when you're ready to meet." I didn't know what to do. Mark wanted to go to the police again, but I felt like they wouldn't help more than before. I was terrified. I started sleeping with my phone nearby, ready to call for help. One night I got another message. "I'm closer than you think." My heart felt like it stopped. I looked out the window and saw a figure standing by the side of the building. I couldn't see their face. I called Mark, whispering. He told me to lock all doors and windows. I sat on the floor, clutching my phone, watching the dark street outside. Hours passed. The figure disappeared. The next morning, the doorknob was scratched. I called my landlord to change the locks immediately. He was shocked and promised to fix the security system too. Days later I got a message, "You can't hide forever." I started feeling watched everywhere I went. In the grocery store, at work, even when I took walks with Mark. I saw the same dark figure at a distance sometimes, just standing still and staring. One evening, I returned home early. The hallway smelled like something burned. I looked around but saw no one. When I unlocked my door, I found my apartment ransacked. Drawers pulled out, clothes thrown everywhere. But nothing was stolen. On the table was a new note. "I'm inside." I screamed. Mark came running. We called the police again. They searched the place thoroughly. No one was found. After that night, I moved out, but the messages didn't stop. They came less often, but still. One night, a message popped up on my phone. "See you soon." I haven't replied, and I'm not sure I ever will, because whoever it is, they're still out there, watching, waiting.